Good afternoon, all, and a warm welcome to all viewers joining us for today's session. I am Gajanan Suryanshi along with Dr. Mangesh Bhalerao, Head of Medical Services. On behalf of RPG Life Sciences, I welcome all for today's informative webinar on allergic rhinitis. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's webinar, Dr. Pratik Shah. Welcome, sir. Pleasure having you here today with us. Dr. Pratik Shah is ENT specialist in Ahmedabad. Sir has done fellowship in oncosurgery. Sir was president and founder of Heritage City Medical Association. Sir was also president of Association of Otolaryngologists of India, Ahmedabad. Sir was joint secretary in Ahmedabad Medical Association. Sir was invited as faculty in AOI GSB. Sir has done 3 live surgical workshops at his own nursing home. So it would be very interesting for us to listen more such a interesting topic. So without further wasting my time, I would like to welcome Dr. Pratik Shah and would request please carry forward the session. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Balerao, for your kind introduction. Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Today's topic is contemporary management of the allergic rhinitis and associated with asthma. So, as you all know that one airway, one disease, that allergic rhinitis and asthma are always in one airway, and both are associated with each other. So you should treat not only the allergic rhinitis, you should treat the asthma also. Lecture, what we will cover from the definition to the management, that includes the pathophysiology, risk factor, evaluation and diagnosis, and also the associated condition with allergic rhinitis. So what is the allergic rhinitis? The allergic rhinitis is a clinically defined as a symptomatic disorder of the nose induced by Ig mediated inflammation after allergen exposure. Once patient will expose to the allergen, there is release of the Ig, and that Ig mediated mast cell and basal cell will stimulate, and then once again if patient will expose, then there is a release of the mediators, and that will lead to the allergic rhinitis. So what are the cardinal symptoms of the allergic rhinitis? As you all know that in allergic rhinitis, patients are having nasal congestion, sneezing, means rhinorrhea, and pruritus of the nose, palate and throat or ears. Also patients are having itching in the nose, ear, palate and eye. So this is the typical picture of the allergic rhinitis, that patient are having usually the patient are having smooth mucosa, here the pale boggy mucosa and edematous. You can see the picture and compare this. In allergic rhinitis, you can exactly see this type of the picture. So allergic rhinitis, wait, I will shift this. Okay. In allergic rhinitis, we can classify it with symptoms, that it could be intermittent symptoms or persistent symptoms. If patient is having less than 4 days a week or less than 4 weeks at a time, that is called intermittent symptoms. If patient is having persistent symptoms like greater than or is equal to 4 days a week and greater than or is equal to 4 weeks at a time, so area classification is that mild and moderate. So if patient is having mild, then there is a normal sleep, normal daily activities, normal work and school, no troublesome symptoms. In moderate to severe or on more, if more than this, then there is a abnormal sleep, impairment of the daily activities, abnormal school or work, troublesome symptoms. So nasal symptom severity depends on the which type of allergic rhinitis. Sometimes there is an infectious, non-allergic and allergic rhinitis. Sometimes there is a mixed rhinitis. If associated with turbinate hypertrophy, if adenoid hypertrophy, deviated nasal septum, or sometimes there is nasal septal perforation that leads to the severity of the nasal symptoms. So allergic rhinitis is really a burden to the society because it occurs into the 400 million prevalence in the among the adult ranges in world, between the 10 to 32% in Asia Pacific region. So allergic rhinitis, World Allergic Organization shows that it occurs into 20 to 30% of the general population, occurs in greater than 80% of the asthmatics. Also, there is a, if patient is having asthma, that is 5 to 15% of the general population, and occurs in up to the 40% of allergic rhinitis. So this is the World Allergic Organization has shown this type of picture. You can see that allergic rhinitis, the more than 80% is patient are having asthma, and also the if asthmatic patients are having 40% are having allergic rhinitis. So the another thing is that link between these two, that 70% of the patients with allergic rhinitis have a risk of developing asthma, and 30% of the patients with rhinitis have asthma. So it is important to break this link. So asthma and rhinitis are manifestation of one syndrome. So we can call it chronic allergic respiratory syndrome. Here the pathophysiology of allergic rhinitis. Pathophysiology of allergic rhinitis. Once the allergen will go to the mucosa, then it will attach to the Ig antibody, and that release of the Ig antibody will attach to the receptor on the mast cell. Once again there is exposure to the allergen antigen that attach to the Ig antibody, and that will degranulate the mast cells, and there is a release of histamine, and that causes the local irritation, sneezing and watering. Also it may lead to the so anaphylaxis, asthma and hay fever in long term. So this is the clinical manifestation after allergen exposure, and this is the pathophysiology. How are the symptoms causes that once histamine will release, then that causes the irritation of the free nerve endings, and that leads to the itching and sneezing. Also there is increased mucus production that leads to the rhinorrhea. Also there is a vasodilatation that causes the congestion of the nose, and also increase the vascular permeability that leads to the edema. So these are the way the allergic rhinitis will occur. So clinical manifestation is sneezing, watery rhinorrhea, nasal pruritus, nasal congestion. In eye, there is eye symptoms, there is ear symptoms. Sometimes the ear, there is itching, there is post-nasal drainage also. And what are the risk factors that causes the allergic rhinitis? So usually the inhalant allergic rhinitis. As you all know that animal denders also, like cat and dog, pet cat and dog, that animal denders that can causes the allergic rhinitis in many peoples. So also there is siblings numbers also, they are having brother and sister, they are having prone to the allergic rhinitis if one is having. Also the pollens, food allergens and diet also has a important role in allergic rhinitis. Mite allergen exposure also lead to the allergic rhinitis. Pollution, in polluted country or polluted area, there is more chances of allergic rhinitis. In house, properly not clean house, there lead to the allergic rhinitis. Fungal allergen can causes allergic rhinitis. Tobacco, smoking also can lead to the allergic rhinitis. Overall hygiene is very much important to prevent the allergic rhinitis. So what are the complications of allergic rhinitis? That is a sinus infection that leads to the sinusitis. Also allergic rhinitis causes the eustachian tube problem, and that leads to the ear problem that lead to otitis media sometimes. So this eustachian tube also causes the hearing difficulty, and that leads to the speech problem in child. Also it leads to asthma, and also the upper respiratory tract infections such as the flu are more likely to occur in allergic patient. So the classic symptoms of the allergic rhinitis, by taking history we can diagnose that patient is having allergic rhinitis. So the nasal congestion and obstruction, patient are having alternative blockage of the both nostrils that leads to the nasal congestion. If patient is having more than 5 to 10 sneezing at a time, that can be diagnostic. If patient is having clear water rhinorrhea or nasal pruritus, that leads to the diagnosis by taking proper history that patient is having allergic rhinitis. How can you diagnosis by history also? This is the way also we can diagnosis that cardinal symptoms is that it is usually occur in the morning hours and may present throughout the days. So clear-cut worsening of the symptoms if patient goes outside and if they are having allergy to the outside allergens. So the classic symptoms of allergic rhinitis is nasal congestion or obstruction. Sorry. Yeah, nasal congestion or obstruction. So patient are having nostril or one nostril, more than 5 to 10 sneezing. So this we have discussed that. Presence of the temporal patterns. All rhinitis symptoms are most intense during the early morning and decrease the symptoms throughout the day. And also that if patient will go outside, then it will worsen. So on examination, patient are having transverse creases on the over the nose because the patient are cleaning their nose with the hand, and that leads to the transverse creases of the nose. And also there is a black allergic sinus. There is a blackening of below the eye that leads to the allergic sinus. And also the salute, like the patient will rub the nose between nose and upper lip, and that will lead to the allergic salute picture. These are the diagnostic pictures. Also we can check for the nasal turbinate and we can diagnose that patient might having allergic rhinitis. Also watering clear discharge that leads to the diagnostic of the allergic rhinitis. And sometimes rarely you can see the polyp, that is a complication of allergic rhinitis. Here we can see that patients are having grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 and grade 4 allergic rhinitis. We can check in the nostril and we can find out the turbinate size. If it is less than 25%, that is a grade 1. If more than 25 up to 50, it is a grade 2. If it is more than 51 to 75%, then it is grade 3 and grade 4. So we can make a grade of that allergic rhinitis by checking the inferior turbinate hypertrophy. And also we can check the ear. Sometimes there is the middle ear effusion or tympanic membrane retraction or adhesion of the tympanic membrane. In chest, there is audible wheezing or diminished breath sound. In skin, there is eczema, urticaria that may be diagnostic for allergic rhinitis or atopic rhinitis. So it is IG relevant. Here we cannot see the picture. So the investigation is we can diagnosis by blood testing of IgE and also the allergic testing by skin prick test and serum antigen specific IgE. To confirm the diagnosis of allergic rhinitis from the other non-allergic type of rhinitis, we can diagnosis by the skin prick test. So it is highly sensitive and specific. Around 80% sensitivity are there by skin prick test. Also, we can diagnosis by the serum IgE level. So we are doing RAST, means radioallergosorbent test. The safety profile is very much in this. Also, there is by taking drug. If patients are taking antihistaminic or steroids, so it is not influenced by that medicines. So also the IgE levels, you can check the level of the IgE and we can check the severity of the allergic rhinitis. So there is allergic rhinitis also present with many more comorbidities like asthma, atopic dermatitis, eosinophilic esophagitis, and food allergy. Also, by symptom wise, patients are having conjunctivitis, rhinosinusitis, turbinate hypertrophy, adenoid hypertrophy. If patient is having sometimes hearing impairment or otitis media, gastroesophageal reflux or laryngitis. And sometimes the patient are having OSA, fatigue and learning problem. So how will you manage the allergic rhinitis? We can manage it by mainly three ways: that you should avoid the allergens, you can treat by the pharmacotherapy or giving the medicines, and also you can do the immunotherapy. So allergen avoidance, it is very difficult. You have to educate the patient that you are having the allergy with the house dust, or it could be due to your carpet or bedding. So you check that whether you are having a problem with your bed or carpet or curtain. So regularly washing and vacuuming. Also, there is, you can use the HEPA filter to prevent that. So patient are having allergy to specific allergen, then you can try to avoid that allergens. You can use the glasses while traveling in the car. You can use the helmet while moving in the scooter or bike. So that by this way we can prevent the allergens to enter into the nose and prevent the allergic rhinitis. In pharmacotherapy, commonly used drug are here mentioned, that is cromolyn, antihistaminic, leukotriene, intranasal anticholinergic, decongestant, nasal saline, corticosteroid, and combined therapy. So these are the commonly used pharmacotherapy for the allergic rhinitis. Here the sodium chromoglycate are used for the allergic rhinitis with asthma. So it has got the effect on the allergic rhinitis, but its half-life is very short, and 3 to 6 doses per day we have to give. That can lead to sometimes side effect like nasal irritation, sneezing, epistaxis, and bed taste. So the sodium chromoglycate is affecting, but we have to give number of the doses. And also there is antihistaminic we are using. There is a first generation and second generation. In first generation there is a lyophilic, and it is lipophilic and cross the blood-brain barrier, and that leads to the side effects like the sedation, drowsiness, concentration, memory, and anti-muscarinic effects. So usually it is not recommended to all the patient. And second generation antihistaminics are having they are less chances of crossing the blood-brain barrier and less CNS side effects. So it is recommended. So there is a comparison between all the medicines. So I will not go through all these things, but it is a comparison between bilastine, fexofenadine, levocetirizine, cetirizine, and disloratadine. Okay. Though CNS penetration is there is no CNS penetration except in cetirizine and levocetirizine, and also sometimes in desloratadine. So side effect sedation is also present in the cetirizine and levocetirizine. So we can compare by the dose also. The dose here they are mentioned the dose of all bilastine, fexofenadine, levocetirizine, and cetirizine. Chemical structures they have mentioned. Onset of the action is 0.5 to 1 hour in bilastine, and all are having almost 0.5 to 1 hour. Maximum effect up to 1 to 3 hours, 6 hours maximum. So food and interaction will occur in bilastine, so it should be given in empty stomach. In elderly, the cetirizine and levocetirizines are having some side effects, so it should be used cautiously. And in renal impaired patient also, cetirizine, levocetirizine is not used. Also, desloratadine should not be used. In driver and pilot, the bilastine is superior than fexofenadine. So previously, the fexofenadine was the drug that was used in the pilot, but nowadays the bilastines are safer than fexofenadine. So this study shows that. In rhinoconjunctivitis, the bilastine is working very good. Cetirizine also working. in patient is having urticaria, all the drugs are working. Drug interaction, there is no drug interaction in bilastine. And another way of treating allergic rhinitis is using H1 antihistaminics. So there are topical antihistaminic intranasal. So that is azilastine and olopatadine are these two drug molecules are available to treat the allergic rhinitis. And what is the benefit? The benefit is rapid onset of action, can be administered at demand, more effective for nasal congestion than oral antihistaminic. So sometimes there is systemic absorption and sedation are present. So how it will work? It blocks the bronchoconstriction and mucus secretion. Alternative to inhaled steroids in mild persistent asthma, usually we can, if patient is having steroid dependent, we can reduce the dose by giving the montelukast. And also if inhaled steroids dose also, it is reduced if we'll give the montelukast. Also, it reduced the dose of beta-2 antagonist drug. So steroid sparing effect is very much in the montelukast. So it should be combined with steroids. Another thing is intranasal anticholinergic. Usually we are using anticholinergic to reduce the rhinorrhea. So ipratropium bromide acetylcholine are drug that is used for the intranasal anticholinergic. And how it will affect? It reduces the rhinorrhea in perennial allergic rhinitis with or without intranasal corticosteroids. Quick onset of the action is there in intranasal anticholinergic. There is short half-life and low bioavailability. There is only local side effect, so that is irritation sometimes. And another molecule is we are using decongestant. Decongestant are of two types, that is topical and oral decongestant we are using. As you all know that xylometazoline and oxymetazoline nowadays commonly people are using by themselves also. There is also systemic decongestant, that is pseudoephedrine, hydrochlorides, phenylephrine. So rapid onset of action in topical decongestant. So that is within 5 to 15 minutes, and oral decongestant work within 30 to 60 minutes. So there are some adverse effect of the topical decongestant like nasal burning, stinging, dryness, epistaxis, and mucosal ulceration. In systemic decongestant, there is side effect like hypertension, heart disease, hyperthyroidism, prostate enlargement. Sometimes it is noted. In xylometazoline and oxymetazoline, there is a dependent or addictive side effect also present, and we are calling it rhinitis medicamentosa. So if patient will not use that xylometazoline, then patient are having nasal blockage. So just like alcohol, the patient will depend on that xylometazoline or oxymetazoline. Some people are using nasal saline. The nasal saline are available like isotonic saline, hypertonic saline, seawater also, and buffer solution. So variety of the regimes, volume 30 mcl to 500 ml. So in different frequency people are using. Proposed mechanism of the nasal saline are that remove the mucus and inflammatory mediator. So it wash out the nose and dilute the antigen. Also, it improve the mucociliary clearance, that will improve the allergic function. Allergic rhinitis proven benefit in many studies, that both in adults and children. So side effects are almost less, and there is a cost is very much cost effective. So intranasal corticosteroid is the medication used for allergic rhinitis. Effective for all the nasal symptoms, that rhinitis, watering, sneezing, itching, in all the symptoms it is effective. So maximum effects up to 2 weeks it will start. No significant difference between the available agents. So improve the asthma control and allergic rhinitis both. So that is reduce the comorbidity. Also, it affects in the non-allergic rhinitis or sometimes in vasomotor rhinitis. Also, intranasal corticosteroid are having very good effect. So, what is the side effect of intranasal corticosteroids? So here they have mentioned that dryness and burning sensation, but it is little bit uh, less, but not always present in. If you are using for long time, then that can lead to the dryness or crusting in the nose. Sometimes that dryness and causes epistaxis, and rarely the septal perforation will occur. So nasal mucosa also get atrophied with the topical steroids, but not always present. If you will use more than 6 months, then these side effects I have noted. So systemic side effects, the people are thinking that it will go to the eyes and that will causes, but side effects like ocular pressure, glaucoma, lens opacity, and cataract, but it is not present, not noted in any study. And there are different type of topical intranasal corticosteroids: fluticasone furoate, mometasone furoate, fluticasone propionate. So all are having bioavailability of 0.5%. So budesonide are systemic absorb, and beclomethasone, triamcinolone, and flunisolide. These are the systemic absorption are more in that molecule. So usually we are preferring that fluticasone and mometasone. That could be a furonate or propionate. Here the comparative study of all the medicines we are using. So the very good result with nasal corticosteroid you can check here on sneezing, itching, congestion, and rhinorrhea. If we are using antihistaminic, it will mainly use for sneezing and itching. If patients are having sneezing and itching, then you should use antihistaminic. And topical antihistaminic also we can use. In decongestant, usually we are using for the if patient is having congestion or stuffy nose. So leukotriene alone cannot be work in allergic rhinitis. You should use with antihistaminic or with topical steroids. Mast cell stabilizer also work in all, but it is not that much effective. Anticholinergic usually we are using for the rhinorrhea. So if patient is having dribbling of the nose or watering of the nose, then we are using anticholinergic agent. So how will you treat the allergic rhinitis? You should use start with the second generation antihistaminic, also associated with leukotrienes. Also, we can sometimes use the first generation antihistaminics. Topical steroid are very much effective drug for the allergic rhinitis. Allergen immunotherapy. So immunotherapy, usually it is Ig mediated disease in which we are using allergic immunotherapy, means immunotherapy. So it is having limited spectrum allergy. It cannot avoid, if patient cannot avoid allergen, then we should use the immunotherapy. If patient is not adequately controlled with medication, then we should use the allergic immunotherapy. It is contraindicated in uncontrolled asthma. If patient are using beta blocker, then it should not be used. If patient are having secondary infection, then you should treat the secondary infection, then give the therapy. If patient are younger than 5 years and pregnancy, you should not use the allergic immunotherapy. So there is a nowadays subcutaneous immunotherapy was previously used. There are having many problem with that subcutaneous immunotherapy, that it should be used in high dose. Updosing also we are using up 8 to 16 weeks. We are increasing the dose, maintain monthly dose afterwards. So the adverse effect of how will you treat the adverse effect of subcutaneous immunotherapy? So after giving subcutaneous immunotherapy, wait for the 30 minutes tell the patient to wait in your consulting room for 30 minutes. It must be observed with physical availability for at least 30 minutes. Rhinitis, if patients are having rhinitis and wheezing after giving subcutaneous immunotherapy, then use antihistaminic or bronchodilator. If patient is having asthma, urticaria and angioedema, use antihistaminic or IV hydrocortisone. If patients are having severe urticaria or angioedema, then use 0.5 milligram of intramuscular adrenaline. So take care of this thing while using the subcutaneous immunotherapy. Sublingual immunotherapy. Nowadays, the people are using sublingual immunotherapy. It is very easy and palatable. A daily tablet should be kept under the tongue and it should not be swallowed. Sorry. Usually well tolerated with minimal local side effects. There are some side effects noted in tongue and lip swelling. Usually it is in 50% of the patient, but it will be resolved within 1 or 2 weeks. Systemic reaction are rare. Death has never reported in sublingual immunotherapy. Other route are intranasal. There are intranasal route, there is a side effects and poorly tolerated. Inhalation also we can do, but there it can lead to the asthma. Oral route, it is not effective and there is a limited study. Epicutaneous systemic side effects are noted and limited study. Intralymphatic is cost effective. It is greater than cost effective than subcutaneous immunotherapy. There is a limited study for that. In some cases, we are doing surgical treatment that if patient is having dilated nasal septum, if the turbinate hypertrophy, then we are cutting the turbinate so to reduce the surface of for the allergic rhinitis. So we are treating in surgery, but the surgeries are rarely done in the allergic rhinitis. So what is the take-home diagnosis and treatment? So first thing in treatment that you should avoid the allergen as far as possible. If you find out that I am having allergy with some specific allergen, then you should try to avoid that allergens. You can use oral antihistaminics. Also, we can use the intranasal corticosteroids if patient is not improved with oral antihistaminics. Intranasal corticosteroid is the treatment for the allergic rhinitis nowadays. Combination of the intranasal corticosteroid with antihistaminic working nicely. Also, we can add the leukotriene to reduce the dose of intranasal corticosteroids and antihistaminic. And if patient is not improved with all the medicines and all the way by avoidance of the allergens, then you should use the allergic immunotherapy. Allergic immunotherapy is a long way treatment, and sometimes you have to continue for maintenance dose up to the very long 1 year to 3 years. So this is all regarding allergic rhinitis. Thank you, friends. So I have completed this lecture today. If you are having any question, you can ask the question.
I would like to ask participants to their questions in Q&A box. There is a Q&A box. Can you tell us about the future of immunotherapy in the management of allergic rhinitis in India?
If you will use immunotherapy properly and with all the measures, then it is very good. Immunotherapy is very good. If you find out the specific allergen, then immunotherapy will work. So immunotherapy has got this definite role in allergic rhinitis, and it should be properly used and properly diagnosis. There should not be false interpretation of allergic rhinitis in that. And proper dosing is very important and gives sufficient time to the allergic rhinitis patient for that. If you are having very much busy, then you cannot do all the things for immunotherapy. You cannot do the allergic prick test or in routine OPD, but you have to spare the time for allergic rhinitis. You have to run OPD parallel to your routine OPD, and you have to appoint some special person for that. So the future is very good.
Prashant is asking, can immunotherapy?
Yes. Yes.
Dr. Prashant is asking,
Yes.
Dr. Kamlesh Naik is asking another investigation from blood except IgE. I think.
So routinely we are using the IgE testing for the allergic rhinitis. So we can radioallergosorbent test. We are diagnosis the specific allergen for the there is specific Ig for the specific allergen. So we can diagnose the exact which allergy you are having, and level of the Ig that will significantly say that you are having this much of allergy, means you are having severe allergy or mild allergy. So we can diagnose this by the blood testing of Ig level. So there is no other way we are doing. What he want to ask, hello?
Yes,
So
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, listen.
Yeah, he wanted to ask. I think he wanted to ask any other test other than IgE to diagnose the allergic rhinitis from the blood.
Sometimes the people are doing eosinophilic count, but it has got no role because eosinophilic increase the eosinophilic may suggest that in elephantiasis the allergy eosinophil will increase. So some people are diagnosis that if eosinophil will increase, then patient are having allergic rhinitis, but it is eosinophilic rhinitis we can call. So we can give the steroid in that cases, and we can reduce the eosinophilia. And I hope this is the only test we are doing.
Dr. Prashant is asking that does immunotherapy would cure the allergic rhinitis?
If patient is having specific allergen, then it has got wonderful result. So you have to diagnose this properly, that if patient is having one or two specific allergen, then we can make a vaccine accordingly. Specific vaccine will work very good in as a immunotherapy. So you should diagnose this properly. If patient is having multiple allergen, then it will not work. So you have to maintain the dose lifelong.
Right. So as you know that the major chunk of patients from pediatric population, so and they suffer from allergic rhinitis associated with asthma.
Allergic rhinitis.
So using antihistaminic requires a lot of insight. And so what are your insight of using antihistaminic in this particular population?
Pediatric patients, usually we are treating with antihistaminics. If patient is having rhinorrhea and sneezing, then we can treat it with antihistaminics. So fluticasone also we are preferring sometimes in a pediatric patient, topical steroids. But the patients are very much effective with antihistaminic. We can add the leukotriene in more than 5 years of age if patient are having. So that gives very good results. So we should treat in pediatric patients routinely. We are using topical steroid. We are not using any decongestant, or we are not using that anticholinergic, or a topical antihistaminic also sometimes works in pediatric patients.
Okay. Histoglobin, what is subcutaneous? What's its role? Dr. Kamlesh Naik is asking.
If you are not doing all the allergic testing, if you are not finding out the proper allergen, then people are using histoglobulin and they are getting result, but it is not long lasting. You cannot cure the patient. You can relapse the allergic rhinitis by giving this, but it is not the treatment for allergic rhinitis. So you have to give lifelong, in repeatedly, 6 monthly or 3 monthly. We have to give.
So we have one more
Right.
question. It says that according to CDC, certain symptoms of COVID and allergic rhinitis are same. So, in your day-to-day practice, how can you distinguish whether a person is suffering from COVID or allergic rhinitis, and what are the protocols which you basically follow?
Yeah, it is very good question that nowadays it is very useful. Routinely, you can ask the history. The patient are having long-lasting allergic rhinitis, that sneezing, watering, itching. Uh, that that is the cardinal symptoms of allergic rhinitis. But in COVID, it is not present. Usually, the patient are having stuffy nose in COVID, typical loss of the smell, loss of the taste, and also that associated with patient is having coughing, pharyngitis. In allergic rhinitis, the typical picture is watering, sneezing, and patient's history also suggests that they are having allergic rhinitis since long time. Here, the loss of smell is in the last stage that patient are having epidermolysis mucosa. If in chronic stage, patient are having polyp, loss of smell. In COVID, there is a loss of smell from the beginning. So I have seen number of the patient, COVID patient, that they are having loss of the smell and loss of the taste, also associated with loss of the taste. In allergic rhinitis, there is no loss of the taste. Also, we can diagnose by D-dimer, serum ferritin level. So, and LDH also we are sometimes using interleukin testing or screening test. We can rule out that patient is having COVID or not. So by this way we can diagnose this. Also, you are you can do the RT-PCR or rapid antigen test is easily available nowadays. So by this method, we can differentiate between the allergic rhinitis and COVID-19.
Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you, sir. So,
Dr.
Dr.
Kamlesh is
Kamlesh
asking question
Yes.
about Gajanan. Oh, yeah. So
Yes.
Dr. Kamlesh is asking question about the use of intranasal steroid. How long can we use it?
So fluticasone we can use for a long time. There is no systemic absorption. Only 0.5% to 1% there is a systemic absorption noted, but there is no side effects up till now. So we can use for a 3 month to 6 month, and it has got very good effect if you will use for the long time. If patient will use for 5 to 10 days, then it will not work. You have to use for a long time. If typical patient is having allergic rhinitis without secondary infection, you can use the steroid spray and it will work nicely.
He is also asking about the surgical treatment.
Yeah, usually in allergic rhinitis, we are not doing surgical treatment. If patient is having allergic rhinitis, severe allergic rhinitis that leads to the blockage of the nose. So in that case is turbinate hypertrophy. Uh, in that cases, we are cutting the turbinate sometimes to relieve the nasal blockage. Also to reduce the surface, that is surface mucosa that is exposed to the allergen. So by cutting that mucosa, we can reduce the allergic surface of the nose. So that is the only thing we are doing in allergic rhinitis. But we are not giving surety that patient will get 100% result by doing surgery. So surgery is not effective in allergic rhinitis.
Yes. Anything from Gajanan, Avinash, please?
No, sir. Questions
No,
are
sir.
over right now.
Yes, sir.
You cannot see. Sir, any concluding remark from your side?
Gajanan, over to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful session. Any concluding remark from your side, sir?
Allergic rhinitis, you should diagnose it by taking proper history, first thing. Second thing is that proper, if you are treating allergic rhinitis, then you should use the intranasal corticosteroids. That is it is recommended by the area. There is no much side effect for that, and patient can take by themselves directly. So another thing is immunotherapy. Immunotherapy, for proper effectiveness of the immunotherapy, you should know the subject thoroughly, that how you can diagnose and how you should treat for in immunotherapy. So this is my my suggestion, that if you are treating allergic rhinitis, you should diagnose properly that patient is having allergic rhinitis. Sometimes there is secondary infection with allergic rhinitis. Sometimes there is levator nasal septums that will aggravate the allergic rhinitis. So you should treat allergic rhinitis with or the comorbidities, like if patients are having atopic dermatitis, asthma, any means eye symptoms, then you should treat properly to that allergic rhinitis. You should not treat the nose, but you should treat the patient as a whole. This is my suggestion. Thank you very much for all the questions.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us and valuable time. We would like to hear more from you in near future. Thank you all doctors who have joined us for today's webinar.